we saw an example of why Mr. Johnson has been elected to the 2 Halls of Fame. Mr. Johnson, if you would come forward, please. On behalf of the Illinois Business Hall of Fame, we'd like to present you with this Pledge of Trusteeship. Let me just take a minute to read it, and then you can tell us how you did it and what we need to know. It says that as the Illinois Business Hall of Fame awards this Pledge of Trusteeship to John H. Johnson, as trustee for the business success story of John H. Johnson, the Illinois Business Hall of Fame pledges its energies and resources to the task of keeping the story alive in the consciousness of future generations of Illinoisans. And all these faculty members have the responsibility to see that your story gets into their classrooms. As trustee, we pledge our energies and resources to the task of maintaining a collection of historical materials concerning your life and career. And Jim Grimm, where are you hiding, Jim? From Illinois State University, has indicated he particularly would like to help work on that. As trustee, the Illinois Business Hall of Fame pledges its energies and resources to the task of encouraging the faculty and students of our colleges and universities to study your career and further clarify what you did and the lessons that we can learn from it. And we pledge to do this in perpetuity as long as our resources and good health and that of our next generation holds out. Congratulations, and please now tell us how you did it.
When Lyndon Johnson was running for the presidency, they made some reference to Jerry Ford, who later became one of our distinguished presidents. And Lyndon Johnson said, the trouble with Jerry is that he cannot do 2 things at one time, like walking and chewing gum. So I want you to know that one of the things I preach in my institution is that we have to do more than one thing at one time. As a matter of fact, a young woman who worked for me went to work for the University of Illinois, incidentally. And she said when she got over there, the lady was trying to apologize for the 2 jobs she wanted her to do. And she said, I've been used to doing 6. So this is going to be easy. Because when you start out small, the one thing you have to do is you have to teach generalism. We try to develop generalists instead of specialists. In a practical way, I remember I got that idea because I had a secretary and I had a bookkeeper and I had a cashier. One day the money was there and the cashier was not there. And I said to the secretary, you've got to open the mail and send the money to the bank. She said, but you hired me as a secretary. I said, but if you don't send the money to the bank, you will not get paid. I understand that. She opened the mail. Well, I'm from Arkansas, and I've lived in Chicago since I was 15 years old. I'm now 71. And I had a very difficult life in Arkansas. It wasn't about discrimination or race or anything like that. It was about poverty. And I guess, you know, when I was growing up in this small segregated town of 600 people, and when my mother worked as a domestic, I never thought I'd be honored like this. There was no high school in this town. And my mother had never gone beyond the 3rd grade. But she believed in the possibilities of education. No one in my family had ever finished high school. And her dream was just for me to finish high school. My father had died when I was 6, and she had a friend in Chicago. So she worked to save enough money, working as a domestic, working on levy camps, cooking, washing, ironing. And incidentally, I know how to do all those things because she made me help her. As a matter of fact, when I got married, my wife would get angry at me and she said, well, if you don't do this, I won't cook dinner. And I said, I don't care because I can cook better than you. I would wash those shirts and I said, hell, I know how to wash an iron shirts better than you. My mother taught me to be self-sufficient. And I finished the elementary school, and she had not saved enough money for us to come to Chicago. And so she said, I think it's going to take me another year. So I thought, gee, you know, I'll have a year to play. Just relax while she saves this money. I'm having to work. But she said, no, you're going back to elementary school, going back to the 8th grade. You're going to stay in there until I get enough money to take you to Chicago. It happened that she got enough money at the end of the second year. But I'm one of the few people who has 2 diplomas from the 8th grade. And I want you to know that I was an honor student the second time. So anyway, the time finally came, and we came to Chicago, and I didn't know anyone here. My mother had just this one friend who lived on East 44th Street. So I went first to the Wendell Phillips High School, and later graduated from the Dusal High School. I didn't have any money to take girls out. I had an extreme Southern accent. I was shy. I was bow-legged, and bow-legged was not considered sexy as sometimes is now. It was a point of ridicule when I came along. And so, I thought, I've got to get back at these people. You know, they're laughing at me, they're ridiculing me. And so I began to study harder than they did. And so I got excellent grades. I read Dale Carnegie on how to win friends and influence people. I read Think and Grow Rich. I read How to Improve My Speech. I would practice before the mirror for hours trying to do something that would keep people from laughing at me. So finally, when they decided to organize the class, no one had enough nerve and courage to stand up and talk except John Johnson. So they elected me class president. I was interested in journalism, and I persevered, and I worked hard, and while everyone else was out playing football and basketball, I was learning how to write and how to do well in English, and so I became editor-in-chief of the school paper. I also became president of the student council. I understood all of that. One thing I don't understand is how I ended up being president of the French club. Because even now, I don't know how to speak French. Despite the fact that I've been to France maybe 50 times over all these years. But anyway, I graduated from high school with honors, and I won a scholarship to the University of Chicago way back in 1936. I did not have enough money to go because it was only a tuition scholarship. And so I met a man named Harry Pace, who was president of the largest black insurance company in the North, the Supreme Life Insurance Company, and it exists today at 35th and King Drive. So he gave me a job as an office boy. He was at an assembly where I was being honored, and he said, young man, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I really don't know. I have a scholarship that I can't use. My mother is still working as a domestic. I cannot continue to see her do this, so I've got to get some kind of job. This was in June. He said, well, why don't you come to see me on the first working day in September of 1936? So I'll find something for you. I learned later he really didn't have a job, but he wanted to help me. So I went to work as an office boy, and I went to school part-time, and I worked part-time. And he soon learned that I had an interest in journalism, and they had a house magazine for employees, so he had me work on that. And everything he gave me to do, I did well. And he quickly promoted me to being editor of the house magazine, and he said, you know, it's a full-time job, and you have to choose on whether you're going to go to college or whether you're going to take this job. Now, I do not recommend that to any student, and I've talked against it. But for me, John Johnson, growing up in Chicago, whose family during a part of this time had been on welfare, a job was a glorious thing to behold. And so I took the job. And out of that job grew the opportunity for me to develop the publishing business. Because as I say to young people today, you cannot go in a room and close a door and come out with a great idea for a business. You have to look for opportunities. You have to seek opportunities to be served. You have to determine what it is that you can do that someone else needs. So in the course of editing this magazine. The president of the company was getting older, and he gave me a job among all other duties, and I had about 5, was to read newspapers and magazines that had articles about blacks and to give him a digest of it once a week so that he could be very knowledgeable about what was going on in the black community, although he was a black man, without having to go through all these publications. So because I had access to this, I'd often say to friends of mine, gee, have you read this and have you read that? And they'd say, no, how can I get it? I knew about Reader's Digest. So I thought, why not a Negro Digest? Something that would cull and digest material from all around, from various publications. No one else thought it was a good idea. I tried everywhere. There had never been a successful commercial black magazine before. I journeyed to New York to talk to Roy Wilkins, the late Roy Wilkins now, who was head of the NAACP and was also editor to The Crisis, which was a house organ for that organization and the only viable publication of any kind in the magazine format that was going. Roy told me, he said, young man, it's not possible. Save your money, go back to Chicago and forget all that stuff. But it was too deeply embedded into me. I believed in it too much. I just couldn't accept that. So I finally made my way with much nerve and courage to the First National Bank to try to borrow $500, which I conceded was what I needed to buy postage to send out some letters to 20,000 names I got at the insurance company, which the president gave me the right to use. He even gave me the right to address them and all that on my own time, on the company's time. So when I got to the First National Bank, the man said, boy, and he did say, boy, we don't make any loans to colored people. Now, I could have gotten angry, and it did cross my mind. But I needed the $500. So I said, sir, who in this town would loan a colored man $500? He said, I don't know but one place. It's the Citizens Loan Corporation at 63rd and Cottage Grove Avenue. So I said, well, what do I have to do? He said, you got to have collateral. I didn't even know what collateral was. I said, what is collateral? He said, well, if you have furniture, an automobile, something of value that we can attach in case you don't pay. So I had struggled along with my little job, and my mother had struggled along, so she had finally paid for some new furniture. So I thought, I said, what if we could mortgage our furniture? He said, yes, if you can bring me a clear title, we'll give you $500. So I went back to my mother, and my mother, for the first time in all those years, balked at what I asked her. She said, son, I just paid for this furniture. I mean, I have to think about that. She said, matter of fact, I have to consult the Lord. So I said, fine. So I called 2-3 days later, and I said, Mother, what does the Lord say? She said, well, I'm still praying. So I said, maybe I'm going to come by and help you. So I went by, and we prayed together, and we cried together. This went on for another week. And finally she said, look, the Lord is apparently not going to answer, but I'm going to let you have it anyway. So she let me have the